think about the heart being the most important part of the body that sustains life, but the reality is the heart is just a pump that pumps the blood, and it's the blood that keeps you alive.
Blood is the largest organ in our body. 10 pints of life force coursing through thousands of miles of arteries, veins, and capillaries. Those blood vessels carry blood to every other organ, keeping them functioning and thriving.
Sort of the fundamental fluid of life, really, that's essential for us to keep things going.
Our red blood cells carry oxygen and nutrients. Our platelets stop bleeding and help to heal our wounds. Our white cells protect us against infection. And the yellow liquid plasma in which they are suspended carries an array of proteins that regulate bleeding and clotting.
Oh, look at this. This is a giant platelet. Look at that. Wow.
Within each drop of blood viewed under the microscope is evidence of how healthy we've been and clues to what's going wrong.
The blood is the window to the body. It's the window to, the diagnosis of many, many different systemic diseases.
A kaleidoscope of millions of cells, each with a specific job.
How do they behave? What are the shapes of the cells? It allows almost an immediate diagnosis of what the problem is. And I think that's rare in any type of science.
Actually, her white cell count doesn't seem to be too bad. I feel many times like I am a kind of Sherlock Holmes detective. And I get this piece of information from the patient. It's like a puzzle, and you try to solve the mystery.
It is a detective story, a medical detective story. You see from the movies, the whodunit. We're just looking for the disease that is the whodunit.
The study of blood and its many diseases is the world of hematologists, blood detectives who have revolutionized medicine from genetics to stem cell biology. Hematology encompasses both research and patient care, turning discoveries in the lab into potentially life-saving treatments.
The genetics and the molecular biology and hematology are flying ahead very, very quickly. We've really been able to identify at a molecular level what goes wrong. And once you can identify what goes wrong, then you can start to try and figure out, how do I fix it?
It's early morning, and Dr. Stephanie Jeske is beginning her day at New York Presbyterian Hospital, Weill Cornell Medical Center. After 4 years of medical school and a 3-year residency in internal medicine, Dr. Jeske has just begun her 3-year fellowship in hematology.
We ran through my hematology knowledge in about the first 30 minutes on my first day. Her cell counts this morning, she has a white count of 1.2.
What do we see with thalidomide? Side effects?
Well, there's some bone marrow suppression. The pill is a little tricky. There's just a ton of stuff to learn. And just to think, is my brain going to retain it all? And hopefully it is, because my patients in the future depend on that. Almost immediately, you can repeat the level in 30 minutes. It's definitely not a comfortable place. It's very uncomfortable because you do a lot of things that you just don't feel adequately knowledgeable about yet. And so that's why Dr. Hempstead is here, which is my net.
So shall we just run the list from the top to the bottom?
Sounds great.
Okay,
Dr. Barbara Hempstead is a professor of medicine and co-chief of the Hematology Oncology Department.
2, he's taking little baby steps.
But I can't prove it.
Fellows like Dr. Jeske, younger residents and medical students learn at her side. Dr. Hempstead is on the consult service, a team of blood specialists brought in to confer on cases that have other physicians stumped.
So, one of our most complicated patients, JD, I think he's about the sickest individual on our service right now. This is a young gentleman, 26 years old, found to have low blood counts, low white count, low red count, and a low platelet count. We don't have a diagnosis, but that's part of hematology.
Like many blood disorders, it seemed to strike suddenly and mysteriously.
I basically was just stopping by to get a set blood test results. I was going to take my girlfriend to the movies, Next thing the doctor said I couldn't leave. I'm staying in for a couple of days. And well, it's been 11 days now, so here we go.
But in fact was found to have rip-roaring lupus, to the point where he's now dependent on dialysis. We were asked to reconsult because his platelet count has continued to fall in this, during this entire time frame, which is really out of character with classical lupus.
Lupus is a disorder where the person's own immune system produces antibodies against itself. An estimated 2 million Americans have a form of lupus. To help Jose recover from the debilitating effects of lupus, he is treated with dialysis for his kidney failure. At the same time, he undergoes a treatment called plasmapheresis. The machine separates Jose's plasma from his blood cells. Then, plasma from healthy donors is infused back into his body.
Hi, Jose. How you doing today? Good. We brought the whole team by.
We're all here.
Morning's all better.
Feeling okay?
Yeah.
You see this young 26-year-old guy laying in a hospital bed, and it just feels very wrong, and you can see how sick he is, and it's very unsettling, I think, for anybody to see that.
Just trying to get an understanding of that.
This isn't the way his life was supposed to be.
Deep breath.
To get Jose's life back on track, the hematology team needs to know more.
And how long will it take to get results
There you
from this?
go, perfect. How long it'll take? About 10 minutes once we do the smear. Okay?
Okay, here's the slide.
Okay, great. Let's see what it shows. He still has a lot of schistocytes. So what's that indicative of?
TTP.
TTP stands for thrombotic thrombocytopenic purpura, an extremely complex and dangerous disease. Before therapy was developed, 90% of TTP patients died.
So let's look at his platelets, because that's really the ultimate readout of how active his disease is.
Jose's blood smear tells the story. To clot properly, platelets stick to the wall of an injured blood vessel. But Jose's immune system has created an antibody, blocking one of the enzymes that helps the platelets to clot. So instead of sticking to the wall of the blood vessels, Jose's platelets now clump together, creating tiny clots throughout his body. And oxygen-carrying red blood cells are getting sheared in the process, causing severe anemia.
It's a devastating and, before there was adequate treatment, frequently fatal disease.
These are typically healthy young people who all of a sudden get dramatically ill.
Just take some deep breaths in and out through your mouth, Catherine.
Dr. David Ginsburg is a practicing physician.
Sit back up there.
He's been researching the clotting system for the past 25 years.
You should run some plasma.
Dr. Ginsburg and his team at the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor discovered the crucial enzyme being blocked in TTP. It's called ADAM-TS13. Platelets coexist with many clotting factors. One is called von Willebrand factor, and it catches the platelets, helping them to clot. Imagine tennis balls caught on strands of flypaper. To keep the platelets from clumping together too much, ADAM-TS13 cuts through the von Willebrand factor and allows the platelets to continue moving. Inhibiting ADAM-TS13 allows dangerous blood clotting throughout the body and causes TTP.
We've learned a whole new part of the way blood clotting is controlled that we didn't even know existed. And it's opened up whole new ideas of how we can treat TTP, but also how we might treat other blood clotting diseases. There's something incredibly exciting and thrilling about that you've got this puzzle nature's given you, and you've been able to figure out, even if it's a little teeny part of it, you've been able to figure that out, and that's tremendously gratifying.
You did a really great job. Thanks. Okay.
Not a lot of physicians get to figure out the puzzle. We get the whole gamut. We get the mystery cases where you don't really know what's going on and you need somebody to figure it out, and that's really why hematology is so interesting.
It's very satisfying to be able to come in, pull pieces of the puzzle together, look at blood under a microscope and say, this is what's going on.
Finally, Jose's tests show a dramatic improvement.
You heard the good news over the weekend about your platelets.
Yes.
It's really impressive. That's great. I think that all the treatment finally kicked in.
Good. I'm hoping it just keeps going.
It really
The crisis resolved for now. Jose will soon be released from the hospital. Jose will remain in Dr. Jeski's care in a clinic run by hematology fellows and overseen by attending hematologists.
I crashed hard.
I think he and I have a special bond, and it's going to be my goal to keep him well as long as we can, and when we stumble, get him well again. You need anything from us, you give us a call, okay? But you're looking good. Congratulations. All right, I'll see you later, okay?
I'll see you soon.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Our red blood cells make up 40% of our blood's volume. They're made continuously in the bone marrow, looking like flattened donuts without the holes. Red blood cells contain hemoglobin, a bright red protein which gives blood its color. When we breathe, as our blood passes through our lungs, oxygen molecules attach to the hemoglobin. Then, the red blood cells and hemoglobin transport the oxygen throughout the body and release it to all our cells and tissues. When the hemoglobin molecules are emptied, they attract carbon dioxide and other waste gases, which they take back to the lungs to be exhaled. Anemia occurs when there are too few red blood cells or not enough hemoglobin. Exhaustion is the common sign of anemia.
When the other kids used to go outside and play, I would try to do that. Then I'd come home and very sick and have to be back in the hospital.
17-year-old Alexandria Young of St. Louis, Missouri, has sickle cell anemia, among 72,000 Americans with the disease.
Among all Americans, approximately 1 in 1,500 to 1 in 2,000 newborns will be diagnosed with sickle cell disease.
In people with sickle cell disease, their red blood cells become deformed, turning sickle-shaped. The bone marrow tries to make more red cells to make up for the loss, but can't keep up, causing anemia. Their new shape keeps them from moving properly through the body, and the misshapen cells can jam up and stick to the walls of the blood vessels. These clumps cut off oxygen to healthy tissue, delaying a child's normal growth and causing fatigue and extreme pain.
It's like a hammer beating at you for a long time.
I never heard anybody scream that high and just wail out, and we were like, what's wrong, what's wrong? And man, she would have it so bad where her eyes just roll back up, just roll back, and she's just in pain, just screaming, yelling, and we didn't know what to do.
And I thought she was just talking in her sleep or something, but she had mentioned that she was ready to go home. And I said, Alexandria, you are home. We're home now. She said, no, Mommy, I want to go to heaven. That's my home. And
Okay, deep breath.
Dr. Michael DuBon has been Alexandria's hematologist since she was 4 years old.
Any headaches, double vision?
Fatigue and pain are not the only issue in sickle cell disease. Essentially, every organ in the body can be damaged by the lack of oxygen. The kidneys, the heart, the eyes, and now we know even the brain.
In addition to pain, probably the most feared complication is that of a stroke.
And right here is her silent stroke.
When Alexandria was 12 years old, a brain scan revealed that she had indeed had a stroke.
I was very scared because I thought only older people would have a stroke and not 12-year-old.
Silent strokes like Alexandria's were not even recognized until a small research study in the 90s was conducted to better understand sickle cell disease in children. MRIs showed that strokes occurred when the misshapen cells got stuck in the brain and cut off oxygen to it.
Certain locations of the brain control your movement. They control your motor ability, okay? There are other areas of the brain that if we removed it, it wouldn't alter your movement at all. It would alter your ability to think. The area of the brain in the frontal lobe is the area of the brain that's more likely to have silent strokes. So most of the children with silent strokes, they're actually walking around, interacting with their family in a fashion that makes people think that, yeah, this child is doing well.
Dr. DeBaun has Alexandria on a research protocol, hoping to stop the strokes. Monthly blood transfusions, called apheresis, remove Alexandria's damaged red sickle cells and replace them with red blood cells from a healthy donor. The hope is that the healthy new red blood cells will prevent her from having future strokes. Dr. DeBaun monitors Alexandria's condition closely, including annual brain scans to look for further damage.
I pray constantly, about Alexandria, that she hasn't had another silent stroke.
The young family won't know the results until their next visit to Dr. DeBaun.
Ezra has a blood disorder that he got from me, that I got from my mom.
Now it's family time.
It's called hereditary spherocytosis.
No cheating around.
Ezra was 5 a year ago, and when his blood count would drop, his mood would change. He would lose a lot of energy.
Score again.
But we couldn't wrestle, we couldn't play around. We always had to be really careful and be on guard to make sure that he was safe.
With hereditary spherocytosis, like sickle cell disease, a genetic mistake causes the red cells to become misshapen as they travel through the blood system. In this case, they become sphere-shaped, like rigid basketballs. When these cells pass through the spleen, they are mistaken as damaged and get destroyed, causing anemia. From almost the day that he was born, Ezra's anemia has threatened his life.
He had 2 weeks to live, the doctor said. Yeah, he just didn't have any blood. He had no red blood cells. They were going away at a fast and furious rate. Every 2 weeks we would go in and they would have to prick his skin and test it. So that was quite difficult. We would have IV teams come in because he was so pale.
During his lifetime, from 1 month on, he had 40 to 50 blood transfusions.
Dr. Donna D. McKelly is Ezra's hematologist.
Ezra came to me, he was just about 1 year old. He was requiring transfusions every 2 to 3 weeks. When he was transfused, he was well. In another 2 to 3 weeks, he would become anemic, and he would grow more tired, more listless, and we'd have to repeat the process all over again. Last summer, Ezra was put in a summer camp, and his mother called me and said, he plays for an hour, and then he lies down, and he can't seem to keep up with his teammates. The coach is berating him for being lazy. I don't know what to do. And it became very obvious that the blood level at which we were keeping Ezra for day-to-day function was certainly not high enough for him to participate in sports. The only way to arrest this process was to remove his spleen.
A job of the spleen is to help fight infection. Its removal will stop the destruction of red blood cells, but will compromise the immune system. Scott believes a splenectomy led to his own mother's early death when he was a boy.
She was in her 30s. She was worn down, and then she got something and in a coma, in 1 day and dead in 3. She wasn't able to fight off what normal people could fight off.
Obviously, when we were discussing this option for Ezra, they were quite concerned and quite reluctant to proceed with splenectomy.
We wanted to make sure he was able to keep some of his immunity.
We came to understand that partial splenectomy, particularly in individuals with hereditary spherocytosis, had very good outcomes.
Ezra's surgery was performed at Duke University Hospital in North Carolina. Though most of his spleen was removed, a small part was left to help preserve his immune system.
Ezra, can you show us your scars? Let me see. Whoa, look at that. That's your red badge of courage, right?
Yep, and I like to feel it.
Let me take a look at you. Okay. That was rough to go through that operation down in North Carolina, huh?
I was in pain.
You were in pain. You were in pain for a long time, huh?
So far, for a year, he's been healthy without transfusions. So we're checking his blood levels for his red blood cells.
All right, perfect. 1, 2, 3. Did you feel that at all?
It hurt it a little, but not too much.
You did so good.
Because a piece of the spleen still remains, there is a chance that it could grow back.
Let's take a look here. That's you. That's your spleen right there.
Yeah?
And that's the blood going in and out of it.
In and out.
You see that number, 4.1? That's what they measured your spleen to last time. And we're going to come and measure it again. We're going to go from side to side now. Good. Okay.
The interpretation of this test